There's a strange gap in how we talk about generations. Boomers get blamed, millennials get analyzed, Gen Z gets examined under a microscope. But there's one group that almost never becomes the main character. They sit quietly in the middle, rarely defended, rarely criticized, mostly ignored. Generation X. They're the co-workers who don't announce burnout, the parents who don't overshare, the people who helped build the modern world and then stepped back from the spotlight once it existed. What most people miss is this: their psychology didn't come from optimism or rebellion. It came from absence. For millions of them, childhood sounded like a door closing in the afternoon and silence filling the house. No phone buzzing, no message checking in, no adult presence hovering in the background. They learned early that if you forgot something, nobody was rushing in to save you. If you messed up, you dealt with it. That kind of environment trains a very specific mindset, one where actions connect directly to outcomes. So they learned to anticipate problems before they happened, to think a few moves ahead, to scan for risk without calling it anxiety. What younger generations sometimes call pessimism, for them, simply pattern recognition. Because they watched promises fall apart in real time. They saw marriages dissolve, jobs disappear, institutions contradict themselves. They were told stability was guaranteed right before watching it vanish, so they stopped trusting guarantees. Instead of believing in systems, they believed in competence. If they couldn't control the rules, they'd control their usefulness. That's why they rarely announce ambition. They just quietly become indispensable. It's also why they don't perform their lives online. They grew up when privacy wasn't a luxury. It was the default. Mistakes faded. Embarrassment stayed local. Nothing followed you forever. To them, visibility doesn't feel empowering. It feels exposed, so they keep things close. They joke instead of explain. They use irony like insulation, not because they don't care, but because caring openly once came with a cost. They learned emotional distance the same way they learned independence. Even their work habits came from this world. Jobs started early. Responsibilities were real. Errors had consequences that weren't theoretical. They didn't expect loyalty from companies because they watched loyalty get punished. But they became loyal to their own ability to adapt, which creates an interesting contradiction. They're intensely self-reliant, yet quietly dependable. They won't ask for help, but they'll show up without being asked. They don't respect titles. They respect skill. Authority to them is provisional. It has to earn its place. And after decades of economic shocks, restructurings, crashes, and resets, they stopped believing anything lasts. Multiple income streams, backup plans, exit strategies, not because they love instability, but because they expect it. There is a cost to this mindset. Self-reliance can harden into isolation. Competence can become armor. Asking for support can feel like failure. They're excellent in crisis because they've been preparing for one their entire lives, and now they're watching their children grow up in a world of constant supervision, documentation, and reassurance. They gave what they didn't receive, but sometimes they worry the trade-off went too far, because to them, being unseen once meant being safe. Generation X isn't better than anyone else. They're just shaped by a moment when certainty collapsed and replacement systems hadn't arrived yet. They're the bridge between eras, and bridges don't get applause. They just carry the weight quietly. And don't ask if anyone noticed.